Hey, welcome back everybody. I'm Jade Monkey. We're back here in Rust to talk about that Rust Console Edition for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, next generations, and everything in between. And today we're talking about what to expect with Power Surge, as we did get official word as to when this is going to hit PTB or staging first. So yeah, let's put it out there. Power Surge is coming soon in November of staging branch or PTB, and that's if there's no delays. Yeah, so fingers crossed, right? So here's the breakdown. Here's what we got, right? What to expect with Power Surge and electricity. The timeline is, or I'm sorry, the breakdown is timeline. Hello. Positives, some of the changes and additions. Items that are going to definitely be in there, and then other items that will be added later, and some items that we're questionable about, like we don't know where they stand. And then why this all brings us closer to custom servers, and why this is all such a big deal, and why this is all going to pivot into more content for us for Rust Console Edition. I said Wust. Barbara Walters. So yes, first and foremost, the timeline, the rough timeline that I think is going to be ballpark November 17th to the 30th, and again, that's if there's no delays, and it is going to be broken up into multiple parts. So we're going to get pieces to see how stable or unstable it is. So wave 1 of Power Surge, I guess is what we're calling it. And again, this is for staging, PTB, or public testing branch. If you have Deluxe or Ultimate, or if you're on PlayStation, I guess you can buy the Cobalt pack, and that kind of upgrades it. But it is a glitch, so if they fix it in the future, they could take away the access. So don't say I didn't warn you. That's kind of the back way to do it. But there is no way to do that on Xbox. There was in the olden days, but that's been patched for us. So I don't know if that's just a matter of time for PlayStation or what. Again, we did go over this a second ago. A lot of changes coming through in November 2022 for both main branch and for staging. A lot of activity in staging branch. So because there's so much here, I'm going to lean more towards the 30th of November, so expect it around there. But I mean, this is such a big deal. Like, start to get ready. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff for this, like streams. We're going to have a ton of videos and stuff. This is going to be fantastic. And we're really going to keep our ear to it. And hopefully everything goes well and there's no delay. Because if there is, we'll let you know that too. But, I mean, I'd definitely be super sad panda if that's the case, right? Right. Okay, so let's go over some of the additions that are coming to this and some of the positives. Changes, additions. The biggest thing, the absolute biggest thing, and we'll probably talk about this a lot in this video. Maybe you've heard it before. It's going to change turrets forever. Absolutely, positively forever. In a good way. I mean, look. Just that action right there, a lot different. And the time it takes for you to run these is limited. And this kind of leads me into the next point that we have here. Think about this as a new resource, adding balance to the game and adding new gameplay loops because you have to collect this said resource, and you can't leave things on forever anymore. You can, but it has a great cost and a large footprint if you do so. This is going to add a lot of new items. You can see some of them there on the right-hand side of the screen there. That's a big deal. It's going to add a lot of things to the game itself, a lot of new things to recycle, things to learn, and stuff like that. But because this is a new resource and it's adding like gameplay loops to it, it makes it super fun, but I think it adds that balance to it as well because turret spam is absolutely out of control. And to this point, it's better for solos and small groups because there'll be less turret spam. And think about it as, because it's a new resource, think about power as a type of upkeep for the turrets or other things inside of your base. I'm not saying you can't do large builds with turrets all over the place. You just need to really plan for that infrastructure and plan for it even further if you plan on keeping it on longer than, you know, just the time when somebody shows up to the base, right? Right. Okay, so this is really good for trap bases. It's going to add the certain types of trap bases that you could never do before. It's going to open up so many more creativity, role-playing type stuff, and even just PvP server stuff. Not only with the trap bases, but some of the things that you can do inside of. So be on the lookout for trap bases. You know what I mean? That's going to be a thing. And again, because we have the power system introduced with the turrets, it has a cost and gameplay loops around it, so it's going to add more balance for the defensive spam. No longer are the days of these giant Zergs placing down 22 turrets with zero cost other than bullets. Turrets are pretty OP. It's an automatic balance, or it's an automatic aiming system. It's aimbot it's like legitimate aimbot. And so, like, you need to have things cost a certain amount, right? Like, or else there's no longer balance. So you're going to see a lot of that. And again, going back to that point for solos, like, it's going to add so much balance to it that, yeah, like, people can no longer just plop out a bunch of turrets. Like, you need to plan for that power and collect said power to make it work. And think about this, too. For people that love to tear apart bases, solos or small groups, like this adds so much more opportunity in gameplay, both offensively and defensively, to do that type of gameplay rating and stuff. So yeah, because you're going to have all these different soft points you can hit to deactivate the whole system. And we didn't really cover this here. So at some point, we will get the ability to customize the turrets if we don't get it initially. They did say they're going to add this, basically me adding and removing. You can add different types of weapons and also different types of attachments, really customizing the turret as well. But also, if you take out said turret, you get the bullets and you get the weapon when this does occur. So if you see this where we can't swap out the weapon, have no fear, that will come in the future. And for PC, that didn't come for us until later as well. So don't feel like we got gypped or anything. So. And again, yeah, it's a big deal because, yeah, memory's definitely a thing, so we need to make sure that everything runs. So again, if you'd like to help, not again, this is the first time I'm saying it, if you'd like to help support me, my channel, you can always buy some merch or even dropping a like. That helps too. All of that stuff is great. But if you're looking to do a little bit more, we have merch available. It goes back to supporting the channel 100%. Everything's down in, or I should say under the video below, and it's inside the carousel there on mobile and desktop, and you can purchase inside of the application, and it is a trusted vendor, Teespring, so you don't have to worry about any shady activities. I've got your back, don't you worry. Okay, so on to the next piece. Whoops, I actually ran off there. So on the same point, this will further progress for custom servers. And you're like, what? What do you mean? Well, let me go into it. So Power Surge and custom servers have taken an absolute decade to finish, right? And you're probably like, well, what's the holdup? The holdup for this whole thing, Power Surge and both was custom servers, it's memory. It's always been about the memory. And so for different reasons, but it always touches memory. And so when I talk about this, I may say client and interchangeable console, or console and interchangeable client, basically our boxes. And then there's the server element, which is the actual thing that we're going to purchase or rent, rather. And it's a computer, and it has its own amount of resources as well. And when we talk about memory, it's going to touch all of those things, but it also we can drill into both console, or I should say client, and the server side. So. Okay, so what's the big deal? Everybody keeps saying, like, why does it take so long, this, that, and the other thing? Well, it's because Power Surge is such a resource hog when running things like turrets and calculating all those different values, not only for everything inside of your base, but for every person on the server, all in real time. So that takes up a lot of cycles eventually, right? Especially with the complexity that starts to go outward. So because of that, there's a lot of weight on the server side, which in turn creates an impact on the memory footprint that it has across the board. Now, also, this is a big deal because this needs to run well on both the console side as well. So memory is also an issue. So like all of these things need to run well. Power Surge basically needs to run fantastic and have a memory footprint that's much lower. So the custom servers have a decent price point. And so think about custom servers in regards of memory to price, and it keeps the cost down just in general. So if you can get an idea of how to run Power Surge at a lower memory cost, that means the cost for us as the consumers to get custom servers will be less. So they can't necessarily do that because Power Surge is such a hog on performance. They need to know what that footprint is first before they can say reliably what the price point is on custom servers. Because what if they do if they put it too low? And all of a sudden they're like, hey, we got to increase the price point on this. Like, it's already going to cost a lot more than PC side because you have a lot of people with their hands in the till, right? Or in the cookie jar, rather. So you've got people like Microsoft, Sony, and then you have Double 11, then you have Facepunch. Those are all people that are getting cuts. And it's all supporting those systems. So, like, if there's any kind of fluctuation in that cost, we're really going to feel it because it just gets put right onto us. I sound like a commercial, right? The savings get passed on to you. So that's the biggest reason why on the custom server side, and they need to make sure that it runs well. But over on the Power Surge side, memory equals performance for us, and then that translates over to the custom server side. So like for all of these reasons, Power Surge needs to come first because they need to understand it before custom servers happen. And since they haven't figured out Power Surge yet, this has always been a question. That's why this has been looming for 1.5 years. So yeah, it all comes back to Power Surge, right? So once this is in and running well, expect information about this. Okay, so memory performance, resource heavy for both client and server side, which we did cover. So that's the gist of it, and that's why the closer we're to Power Surge or getting through Power Surge, the closer we are to customs. Now, I don't think it's the roadblock for it necessarily. I just think it's a major piece along the way, so keep that in mind too. And there is a separate team also working on custom servers as well. Okay, so let's go over some of the pieces and parts that'll be included with this. And we'll show you a couple examples over here in a minute. These are some things that are definitely going to be in here, things you need to get familiar with if you're not already. Power Surge is always going to have power, collection, and then storage. And so collection is going to be either these generators here, solar panels, or wind turbines. We could get 2 out of the 3 of these, or all 3, depending on how performance is. This has an animation on it, so I don't know how they're going to handle that, so they may give us solar panels and generators. But just know PC had solar panels, turbines, and then they got these later. So you know, it could be any combination of those. Whatever leaves the least amount of footprint, right, for wave 1 of the release. And then we have storage of said power. And we have 3 here as well, small, medium, and large. Although back to PC side, we had large first, which was a completely different model. It looked completely different. Actually, it looked like one of the transformers at one of the radiation areas for like junk piles, like the concrete wall one. But anyways, most definitely this will be in there because that was always in there since day 1. And then you'll see things like these red boxes or rectangles. These are root combiners. These combine power sources of any kind and put them into one. And then you would throw them over here onto the battery itself. And so I'm not sure to what degree we'll have this kind of readout. I hope that we do, because this is definitely vastly more user-friendly, usable for us as the players. But I don't know if we'll get this breakdown. So like each of these have their own power output. This has 100, this has 50, and this has 10. And there's Rust watt minutes. That's what RWM stands for. So again, we'll keep you abreast of the situation as it comes through. I've been playing this ever since it came out on PC, so no matter what variant comes out, I'll be sure to keep you guys in the know, because you gotta know how to power those turrets, baby. You gotta know. Okay, so expect to see things like the turret configuration that we were talking about earlier. There are things that are going to be anchoring the turret, which is always going to be power, whether it's that wind turbine in the background or batteries inside. So keep your wire management airtight, because if you point to your cabinet where your batteries are stored, that's where I'm splashing those rockets. So just keep that in mind. Start wrapping your head around it, right? All right, so speaking of wrapping your head around it, we have a bunch of different setups here. Here's a pressure plate. This actually generates its own power for a period of, I think, like a second. And there's a door controller that opens the door automatically. We have a sensor here that was here since the beginning. Not really used a whole lot now in modern PC Rust, but this is an activator switch. This is a laser. And then over here we have more door controller setups here. This is a switch. And then check this out. You can have it deeper in the base, but this is a timer. You can see it spinning there, and it should close the door when it's done. And each of those door controllers are keyed in for each of the verified locks that are on the system. Pretty freaking amazing, right? Right. And check this out. At some point we'll get this. I don't know if this will be in wave 1 or not. And yeah, so if I say some of these things won't be in there, just know that most of this stuff is coming, if not all of it. We have the heaters here, which is going to open up more of the winter biome big time. Like the fireplaces are cute and all, but these are vastly more efficient. They actually push through the wall. As far as the heat's concerned, it's really, really great. And they don't take too much power, and they're just really good for the winter biome. You'll see them all the time out there. So these are things that aren't going to be out there initially. Was that Windows trying to update on me? My goodness. So we don't know if this is going to be in, full caveat here, we don't know if this is going to be in, they haven't officially said in the future, although there are signs. I'm going to say personally, I think it is. It could be way, way out there, but Rust Plus has a couple of in-game items, but just think of Rust Plus as something that help you interact and receive information from the game when you're online and when you're offline. And what that translates to, without getting too deep into it, because it is awesome, you can get offline raid protection. You'll get notifications when you get clipped by somebody, let you know who did it and with what. Yeah, really cool. It runs on iOS and Android. Most people just have those phones anyway, so I don't think that's an issue. If they do implement this, I think it's going to be a ways out, but it's super hot. Like, offline raid protection, it's your best friend in a real-time map. Freaking hot. I don't want to boost it up too much because we're like, oh, we don't have it. Here's the computer station, working with cameras and also customs, like your own custom setup, and then monuments. I don't know if we'll get this initially in Wave 1. If we do, I think it'll be more anchored to just the monuments and not having your own custom cameras. Here's what a custom camera looks like. And the reason why is it's creating its own viewport into the world, so you're almost having like 2 versions of the game clicking on and off. And so for the older systems, this is kind of puts it out of the realm of possible. But who knows? Maybe they work it in there, or maybe it's just the stationary stuff. But like, don't expect this initially, and if it's in, then it's just a nice surprise. Same with this one as well. We have the electric elevator. It's cool, but I don't think we'll get it initially. Again, I think we'll get most of these things. The only one that's really up for debate is the Rust Plus stuff, but Just keep that in mind. Over here is the water farming 2.0 stuff that needs electricity to operate correctly. This will be coming for sure. Farming 2.0 equals teas, mixing tables, buffs, farming buffs, scrap buffs, all kinds of cool stuff. Like, think about another healing potion or a healing pot for yourself in combat. Like, nobody really uses that enough, I think, on PC. Teas are OP. They're the best, and that has a whole series of gameplay loops for it for farming and cloning. It's freaking beautiful. I am excited for that. So essentially, Power Surge is going to open up this for later and things like modular vehicles and whatnot, right? But no matter what, you know, get familiar with the basics for sure. But even if this thing is bugged out of its freaking mind and it doesn't work, we're always going to get progress towards the next big thing, and especially Power Surge. And this is where it's supposed to happen. If it's bugged out, sweet, fix it. And if it's totally broken, that's why it's on PTB. We could just go over to main branch and go play, right? And that's essentially what it does. So it's good, and then it's always leads back to it. It leads us closer to more content, things like farming 2.0, things like modular vehicles, and other things that take electricity. But more importantly, it takes us closer to custom servers, and that's very exciting. So hey, if you're starting to wipe and you're like, hey, I'm solo or I've got a small group and I need something cheap and I have no blueprints or metal, well, I have the base for you. It's called the Wedge Cheap Bunker Base. This is for everybody. You can get this bad boy up in under 20 minutes by yourself, and you can make multiple bases to make it harder for the Zergs to find you. I'll throw it up on the end screen now.